Okay, so this video today is over cucumber buttons, or grinding smoothly. If you don't do Shuai Chiao, it's going to sound kind of weird. And if you do Shuai Chiao, you may assume that it's just a fundamental, like it doesn't have a lot of bad potential. Or you may understand it very clearly. So, what is it? It's this movement with the hands, right? And it can be done a little narrow, or it can be done large, and I can do clockwise, or I can do counterclockwise, or I can do clockwise and counterclockwise. What is it? Well, let's look at where we find it first. We find it in the jiao. There's jiao, or 13 different postures, we'll say. Within these postures, some of them they're to maximize your structure, right? To help you with your stability and your balance and the connection of your body. Some of them are more about strengthening the core. Some of them do both. For the longest time, I didn't understand the value of the cucumber binds or grinding smoothly, right? Yes, it's a series of parries or grabs or even strikes, right? We'll talk about that in a minute. But I didn't really see the connection with the other pieces because, usually it's going to be done like in a high horse or a horse stance, and then the arms are moving. Well, when you see that in reality, when I'm doing these motions, right, I'm using the core muscles. And of course, I'm using the ankles, the knees, and the hips to move the body, but I'm also contracting the core muscles when I do the motion, right? And so that looseness that I'm getting from the hips and the knees and the ankles, and then with the contraction of the core muscles and the fixing of the hands, right? In other words, I'm not moving the arms independently. They're moving with me as part of the body, right? Okay. So that's where it fits with the jiao, meaning that it's more about getting an awareness of the core, the connection with the legs, and learning to use all of this together as a unit. So, that being said, back to what is it? I see people that do these and they stiffen the hands or clench the fists, but they turn this into something almost like a very external hard movement. That may work for certain things, but to me, I feel that Shuai Chiao is not really that rigid of a system, and it's not. Yes, you can consider it external, but to be honest with you, it utilizes a lot of internal concepts that you find in Chinese internal martial arts. I feel that it has a very good balance of both. I need that, and it helps me to amplify my ability. Now, I'm not talking about metaphysical concepts and things like that. I'm talking about how to use the body, how to keep it relaxed, the joints loose, being able to use momentum for power, and my core, the core of my body to generate force. Let's see. Let's start with this aspect of it. Hands and arms, stiff clenched or not. So to me, when I do these movements, I keep my hands like this. I'm not clenching my fists, right? I'm clenching my fists. My reason why is like when I'm doing this action, as it relates to categories, I can use this in physical conflict on the street. I can use it in sandal with boxing gloves on, and I can use it in sport wrestling. Using the same methodology, but you need to see the purpose of it, right? So a lot of people say, well, this is just a series of parries or blocks. It is, but it's also seizing and grabbing, and it's also striking. So I'm going to try to kind of show some of those ideas. So if I'm here like this, if he reaches to grab me with his arms, right, as we do it, Shuai Chiao, right, we have, he reaches to grab me, either my thumbs are on the bottom, or he reaches to, or my thumbs are down, right, or they split, right, like this. One thumb, one is like going down, one's going up. So here, 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 here. Right? And these help to facilitate that. If you're wrestling, also help me to grab the person's jacket or grab to the outside, right? Or I'm doing this and I keep exposing my, say my elbow to Jonathan, and Jonathan grabs my elbow. I may utilize this to help me to grab to get a hold of the person, right? Or he grabs my elbow and I may use it to do a snap down and grab onto the wrist. So also in the wrestling, say for example, he grabs and I switch and I come for the head. I would use the same action to, I may come and hit him in the back of the head, right? Yes, you're not supposed to hit people, but we know that it happens. On the street, right, he comes to strike me with the hand and I grab across and I hit him in the back of the head. It might be enough right there, or I hit you to grab, right? To get a hold of the guy to dump him. Same thing, he goes straight out to this side. I can use it this way. I get a hold of the guy. Maybe he comes with another punch. I knock this one down. I'm going to come underneath, right? Or he throws this punch and I knock it down and I use this to get me to the inside, right? If you look at this, it's more than just moving my hands around, but then it has multiple purposes for you, right? Again, he does this straight, and this is the same motion, right? Here, right? My Sifu really likes to use this hooking type action to break down a punch in this way, right? He'll come back with something else, right? Bam, bam, like this. The same thing when it's moving this way, right? Goes to punch, there's my back fist, or I use this action to do a back fist to either to hit him or to get him to block or secure in some way, so I can come in and do some other action. So physical conflict, whether I'm doing this or I'm like this, or, and just to clarify something, I don't feel that you should wait on another person to attack you, right? I may be here and I move in, and if he doesn't do something, I'm going to nail him with punches, I'm going to grab his head, or I'm going to knock his arms down, seize them, grab them in some way. But again, loose hands, I'm going to clench or tighten these up when I'm going to hit, and I'm going to do it with the core of me. I'm not going to swing the arm per se by itself, right? He goes for the punch, it's my body, right? It's this kind of stuff, right? Boom, boom, with the body, right? So, and again, for wrestling itself, it's easy for me to grab or use it to grab, use it to grab, use it to knock his, he comes in to grab, knocking hands down, grabbing, holding, good for that purpose. And then for sandai, okay, personally I feel sandai should have finger gloves, but whatever. But in sandai you're wearing a boxing glove. And so it's really hard to grab something or do a lot of the traps or controls that we would do in Shuai Chiao or Chinese martial arts in general. So another opportunity that cucumber vines or grinding smoothly works great, right? I've got on boxing gloves, he goes to punch in my head, and I'm using these rolling actions to grab or support something. He punches, and I'm using them to get me inside and grab or to hold something. I've had guys compete here in the U.S. and Asia and in Europe, and in Europe just with the wrestling, right? But here in the U.S. and in Asia with the sandai, and those guys that competed at that time, all you had to do cucumber vines or grinding smoothie, if you want to call it that, to be able to hook and seize or control a guy's arms, right? And they're integrating this concept into functional also, striking itself. It's two different aspects, right? He throws the punch, and maybe I slip it and I control it like this, right? I can't grab it, with my hand. I've got on boxing gloves, and then from here, he goes in, and he moves this way, or he goes for the head, or whatever it may be to execute a throw, right? Or to tie this guy up to be able to strike. So again, I feel that the cucumber lines it's a great training thing to do. And again, it's in the Taobao, and it's one of those 13. I've got some videos on YouTube if you're watching this and it's current. But over this coming weekend, in the next week, I'm going to refilm all of those with explanation. I have the last 8 of the 24 forms to film this weekend and through the next week as well. So we'll get all of that out of the way. But clockwise, linear, and counterclockwise, right? So you can make this tight this way. You can make it large. But in the beginning, if you're having a hard time with understanding the movement, right? Do one hand, right? So that I come across, I come down, I come across, I come down, or I go forward, right? Or I come down and across. So it's supposed to be 8 different parries, right? But depending on how you're doing it. But when you're in the beginning, just focus on the hands, and then once you get the hands down, then look, start bending with the knee and the ankle and the hip a little, whatever pattern you want to work. And then once you get that, then try to add this in, right? Try to add the core. So look, I bend knee, and this goes to fix, and then I twist a little more, right? Or I twist a little more. And whether it's going forward, side to side. And look, it's really hard to get rigid and stiff to do this. Like me personally, I keep my hands like this. I'm not going to even think about closing them all the way. So when I'm doing the motions, so this is another example would be something like in Tai Chi doing silk reading, right? Being able to root in the ground, use the legs and the core, the same kind of premise. As it relates to, again, well, what can I do with these actions? Again, he can throw a punch and I can turn it into grasping, right? Or he goes in a punch and I turn it into grasping, right? So this is punch, right? I turn it into grasping. I can turn it into blocks, right? Like this, right? I can make small explosive blocks and I use my body, right? If I try to use the arm to do this stuff, potentially I'm going to go too far and then I have to recover. But if I do it from the body, I can keep these lines and move into with the actions, right? So think the outsides for blocks or parries, right? And again, with a parry, moving something, right? I don't have to do hard moves. I can move and guide with it, right? And then come in from a different line. But I'm using the 2 outsides just like with any other functional parry action. The hand itself, I would either be using this side for striking, or this side, or potentially even the fist if I come this way, right? Boom, right? Or clipping here, or clipping with this part, or the back of the fist, and the hitting part, right? The blocking. So if you think about it, you can use this as a fundamental training pattern for grasping, guiding something, blocking. blocking something, seizing something, and striking something. It's a very functional pattern and routine. For a way to strengthen this thing, you can use bricks. I have bricks here. I actually going to make a video over different types of hand training things. But like, say, these are a couple of 6-pound shots, right? And I should be able to work these with my body. Even here. Using something heavy like this, or like bricks, or hand weights, that kind of stuff, it will one, it'll help your grip and your biceps and forearm strength, but it'll help you to engage your core. So very, very good for all kinds of training. Hand weights. So Master Chong stuff, he used a lot of bricks. You can go to Lowe's or Home Depot and buy you some taters for 50 cents a buck a piece, something like that. Those were pretty good, but not. They're not like the old clay bricks, that would have been a lot heavier. So getting something like some cheap shots like those are like for junior high or something. So they're not as expensive, because they're not as, I don't know, as well rounded or something. They're not as good quality as, like I said, the ones from college or the Olympics. Get you something cheap like that for $30 or something. So anyway, that's pretty much it. I'm going to say that if you take the time to try to incorporate cucumber vines into what you're doing, it's important. Then there's other ways to block and parry and grab and strike and stuff like that. But it's part of Master Chong's Shuai Chiao method. The approach of it. And other systems, so this is about being Shuai Chiao, right? There's other systems, and they utilize the hands in a different way, we'll say, when they go to wrestle. Why is that important? Because it is, in theory, it's an ethnic style of wrestling, right? It's one of the 4 primary ones. There's even other styles of wrestling in China. There's some that you can grapple on the ground, right? I think the Yao people, or I think it's the Yao, maybe the Mao, but I think it's the Yao people that have this grappling style where they actually pin people on the ground, and that's the emphasis of it. But if we as practitioners don't encourage ourselves and those wrestling that we're instructing or that are doing this, to try to incorporate this into their sport wrestling game, or even try to use it in a physical conflict like I'm talking about, and practice using the movements in that way, it'll be lost because a lot of people don't do it at all. And then because Shuai Chiao is such a small collective here in the U.S., you have a lot of martial art events where people go and they do judo, or they do this type of wrestling, or this type of wrestling. And so you don't see these things. It doesn't take away from you to try and utilize the hand movements in this way. And it doesn't mean that not doing them is going to detract from it, or doing them is going to detract from it, is what I'm getting at. But it's an important aspect of Shuai Chiao. You see these poses in the hands, and it's to set this stuff up to do these, right? To move and to do these things, and bringing that uniqueness into what Shuai Chiao is, and giving that example when you go to compete and wrestle, or if you can utilize it in a physical conflict, altercation, street self-defense, whatever you want to call it. Again, there's other things you can do, but it's a great tool to develop. And then, like I said, if you practice on or you want to practice it, you want to have it, they get a lot of these grips. Using the hands and learning how to hook and roll and seize the person's arms or neck or waist or legs. Using the cucumber bonds is a great way to go. So anyway, I hope that makes sense. And again, it's just a small video to kind of give an explanation of cucumber bonds. Thank you.